everybody. I remember a while ago I said I would make a video demonstration of the game and engine technology that we're working on, or that I'm working on. So I figured let's show it off. So the first topic of interest is our world creation system. So I'll start up the level editor and I will show you. Let's see, let's not bother with that. Let's open a recent file in this one. And so as you can see, this is the level from the game I was showing off earlier. Now, interestingly enough, it uses a tile system like most. So as you can see, I can click here, I can drag these around, and they have a grid snap to 8 pixels, I think, 864. It might be configurable, I don't remember. It's been a while. And so these tiles also have extra accompanying data called meta tiles, which have useful features such as like our collision indices, what size the tile is, if there's any loaded graphics for a top layer, so like we can scroll through our meta tiles here. And I'll just pick this one. This one's pretty interesting. And we can turn on like our collision editor. So as you can see here, these are platform tops. You can fall through these or jump through these. You can look at some other collision boxes like this one. These are just solid. With the collision editor, I could like add. I don't know. It's been a while since I've tested this program. Yeah, and then I can move this around however I want it. So if I wanted to make like a slope here, I could put it right there. But it won't do that because that would be inappropriate. We can just cancel and not mess with any of this. Oh, lovely. Yeah, it is a work in progress. And I did, I spent a few months working on it. And so there's the other mode in the editor. We can switch from tile mode to item mode. And then we can like mouse over some of the entities we want to edit, like this, the pickup item, and click on it and get its data here, its position, move it around. We can, this field system is extensible, so any entity with fields, we can add new ones. I can add a field, so we'll just call it, what would we have for item life, I don't know. And then we can take this life field that we made and we can give it a type. So we can make it either a location, which is what this X and Y is, text, if we want to give it a string value, or if we want the game to try parsing it as a number, we could call it an integer and just punch in, some integer values. And we can, since it's extensible, we can just delete fields all at once, delete and rename. So I mean, that's pretty much it. We can place all sorts of entities, and there will be a bunch of pre-built types. So we have entire categories here, non-player characters, there's a test thing in here, some enemies, depending on if we build a single-player campaign, maybe not. Items, triggers, there are a bunch of here, like you can set triggers that tell the camera what to do. I think there's one of these here. Yeah, I put them over the spawn points, because with the old camera system, you could set bounds and locks, and so that's what these did. You can see we could change the parameters of the camera system, and whenever you touched one of these, it would set that. This is just a decorative entity, I think. Mouse over it. Rotating gear, yeah. So the engine lets you build whatever kind of world you want using this system. So you can have your artists define it, then you can go in and define all of the finer properties, the collision, the way it interacts with everything. And it's not the most robust editor yet. There are a few little glitches and things, but all in all, it's a pretty decent piece of software. So let's move on from the world creation system. No saving. So The other tool in our toolkit for creating content for this engine is the animation editor. And since this game is about, well, our first game that we're building off of this is a fighting game, we need to have complex character interactions. So I will show you how to start a new animation. So I've already gone off and made an animation in single frames. I animated it with my art tool. So we'll go to our folder. Okay, so if you export you have your artists export a series of frames, individual frames for an animation, you can have this program automatically compile them and create the animation data for them. And yeah, so this is asking us to set the frame delay in milliseconds between frames, and I set that to 33, 30 frames per second. And this will ask us to save a graphic file. So I would just go test NPC and save this as test2. And so then it created a series of frames for this animation. I think we have 14 frames. And then if we wanted to, we could change the shape of the clipping rectangle for this frame. So if we decided, the artwork doesn't completely fill the frame here, we can adjust that. We can modify the frame delay per frame, so if you don't like how fast your animation's playing or you want to tweak it or something, you can go in there and you can set this as high or low as you want. We actually use this quite frequently. Like on the death animation, it looks good when it's slower, so we bumped up the frame delay on those a bit. So now I'll show you a real animation that we have in the game running already. What's a good one? What's a good example? Yeah, we'll do the vertical attack. There we go. And so as you can see, we have each frame of the animation imported in here. And since our game has lots of fine character interactions going on, and obviously any other game built off this engine would want to take advantage of that, we can edit our hitboxes on a per frame basis. So this right here is of type take damage, so if you hit this with a give damage hitbox, it will process the damage, and you can see these red hitboxes popping up during the attack frames. You can set parameters for them, like their hit priority, how far they knock the opponent back, how much energy is behind them and how much damage. We can scrub through the whole animation this way. So you don't have to use the animation compiler. You can manually create the clipping rectangles. So if I wanted to, I could also just go new, and that'll clear all the Okay, so if I can load just a graphic and say I wanted to do that same animation we were just looking at, or no, I'll do a different one. We'll do this one. Alright, so you can see it loads this. We can add each of these frames piece by piece. And then set the clipping rectangles. So you could fix a few problems by manually messing with the clipping rectangles, centering and offset problems, assuming you have enough space on the sprite sheet to do what you're attempting to do. But another neat little feature of the engine actually is when you load an animation in the code, there is a rendering offset value that the game will take into a place for both the animation and the hitboxes. So like if your character's drawing too far to one side or off the bottom of the screen or something, you can, well, it shouldn't be that far off, but if your character isn't drawing in precisely the right location, you can mess with those numbers and get it the way you want it to look. So I'm gonna stop here for this because this is getting a little. You can see how this works. You don't need 50 frames for a demonstration. But we'll go to the hitbox editor, and we'll just add a new hitbox. Take damage type. Drag that over the region we want to be vulnerable, and we can copy the hitbox. Go to the next frame, paste, paste, paste. The copy frame feature doesn't quite work right now. It copies each of the frames, but it pastes the data incorrectly, so I'll have to go through and debug and see what's wrong with that. But I can paste those. And did I have? Alright, we'll go to the hitbox editor, and we'll go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To add it again, I don't think it saved the clipboard, because I got rid of that control, and then we can add another one. Change the type. Change that to like a give damage. This right here. Set the damage to 7's a little high. You set the priority ridiculously high, and we'll set the knockback to 6. So if somebody got hit by that, that would be pretty nasty for them. They'd fly backwards a little bit, and they would lose a good chunk of their health. So that's how you would create new character artwork. It's how you would get actors to interact with each other. And if I wanted to save this, I'd just say save. And I could save this as a .anm file, but I'm not going to do that because this is not good work. Close that right there. And so I'm going to load the game up to show you about the next system. Set it to kind of small so that it won't go off the sides of the screen. Hang on. There we go. So the next system here is the interface system. It works very similar to Windows Forms. In a sense, when I was creating the editors for this project, the Windows Forms designer, with its really modular and object-oriented controls, it's a really neat system, and I like it. So this right here is running with one interface control class that effectively acts like a page. And on this page I have a series of controls, like this options menu. This is a label. You can give it a text value, and it'll draw out the coordinates you give it automatically and the text you give it. This down here is just your standard graphic. It points it to a 2D texture in memory, and it draws it given the size and location you tell it to do. Another label there, and we have these pre-built button controls that will load graphics, and the buttons have different highlight types. So if you want it to highlight by loading a different texture, you can do that. Or if you want it to highlight by loading a different color, which is what it's doing here, it'll do that. And then when you trigger the highlight, it switches, it draws an overlay color instead of an overlay texture. And the buttons have different events when you select them, just like a button control in Windows Form Designer would do. Has the standard events, highlight, hover, activate, select, things like that. So I can switch to a different page. Gameplay options, there's nothing here yet. Control options, nothing here either, but sound options, we have these labels, and buttons. And the buttons are rigged to events that change the label and the proper value in the game engine. So as I do this, you can hear the music coming back on, and it changes that label and the value on it. So that's pretty much it for the interface system. Alright, I'll show you we'll go back to world creation for a bit, assuming this loads properly. Alright, and so there's that animation system we were talking about in action. So in debug mode, I can turn on debug mode, and we'll turn on the actor hot zones. So this blue hot zone, what it's showing you here is, because actors can have so many hitboxes, it could be a real nightmare to calculate collision for all of the actors in a scene. The game will only calculate collisions for actors if their hot zones collide. That way we keep our computation time down. So we'll turn the hot zones off, we'll turn the hitboxes on, and you can see that white dot is the calculated position of the center for the offset feature. So that way, if you ever need to debug it, you can make sure that your animation is showing up where the offset says it should be. and this will render our hitboxes, so you can see these attack frames come up. I don't know why the transparency is not working on them, but as you can see, show off all of our different hitboxes. Lovely little debugging tools. Turn player no clip on. Zoom out a little bit and fly around. You can see the whole stage. The zoom feature was really nice. It took me a week or two to implement properly because it wasn't zooming in on the center of the screen. It was zooming in on all sorts of weird locations, but I fixed that up. We can turn the level collision on, so you can see, remember that tile system I talked about earlier? It's not going to work with us in debug mode. Or with no clip. But yeah. So it will highlight the collision tile I'm in, and it will highlight the collision boxes, just so that you can check and make sure they're lined up with the world correctly, and you can see how your character would interact with them. You can see my character's floor sensor, just so you know what's going on. Yeah, slope collision doesn't work very well right now. It might work on that later. I don't know. I've been building the game around not having slope collision so far, but maybe I can mess with the floor detector and get that working a little better. Yep. So our level layouts have pass-through collision. We can hop up, go down. As you can see, we have wonderful support for animated entities. And we can turn on entity collision rendering too. So you can see, this does turn on, yeah, our world collisions. So you can see, what size box your character is using. You can check bounding boxes, running into each other. You can see we have, invisible collision boxes running. And these pickup items, as I go over them, you can see as soon as our world collision hitboxes intersect with each other, it just picks them right up. That's pretty much it for the tech demonstration. I guess I'll go on and show you the game itself we're working on. That's a tentative title. I don't know if we're going to keep that, but maybe. So here you can see the interface system working in full effect. We have pointers that we can use for both controllers. So we'll both select character 0 because it's the only one that's even close to being implemented for now. And then it alerts us to when we can move on. The next page icon shows up. And these will let us select a level. Pick a level, go to the next one. These are our options. These haven't been implemented, but all the data is stored for them. So I mean, you can change these. I'm working on getting the different game modes working. The starting lives works though. I'll set that to like 1. We'll turn items off. Score limit wouldn't be applicable because we're playing survival. Okay, go to the next page and it will load. And so as you can see, we have both characters working. We can play around in this arena. We can hang on edges. We have falling platforms. They shake a little bit, fall over. If I attack this person, they take damage. I think the knockback doesn't work quite too well. I think because they hit the stun animation as soon as the first hit frames hit them, and the knockback is in later frames. So I'll play around with that. And, yeah, see, there we go. That trigger right there, you can, they're invisible launching triggers. You can see the level layout like, ah, crap. Yeah, the no-clip mode doesn't quite work as well as it should yet, but there we go. The auto zoom, by the way, works. Yeah, the auto zoom
calculates, you know, how far away both players are, and it tries to keep both of them on screen. So that was a neat little feature that took a while to implement. Yeah, you can see the trigger for the launcher right there. That's the edge of the world. And there's a kill trigger down here. Right there, you can see that. So if I touch that, nothing will happen because we're in no clip mode. Yeah, since we're in debug mode, you can see where the launchers will send you. Those invisible destination entities are there. So that's it for the game demonstration. We do plan on having the game be moddable, which is why we showed off all these tools. But no idea when it will be ready or when it will be finished, but we're working on it, so let us know what you think in the comments below, and show your friends, and if you have any ideas, send them our way. When we get ready to do, you know, a demo or testing or whatever, you'll see it on this channel, and hopefully you'll play it and it will be fun. And if it's not fun in the first build, it will be fun eventually, because we're not going to stop working on it. So thank you. Bye.